Everyone is talking about France. Everyone is talking about Brazil. Everyone is talking about England, finally ending 50 years of hurt, and Argentina defending what they won in Qatar. Nobody is talking about Morocco. And that is exactly the mistake every football analyst, every pundit, every pre-tournament favorite list is making right now. Because Morocco in 2026 is not the Morocco you think you know. This is not the team that surprised the world in Qatar. This is a team that learned from Qatar, grew from Qatar, and has spent the last 3 years building something that could genuinely shake the foundations of this tournament. Let us start with what happened in 2022, because you need to understand Qatar before you can understand why 2026 is different. Morocco arrived in Qatar as a 250-1 outsider. They were grouped with Belgium, ranked second in the world at the time, Croatia, the 2018 World Cup finalists, and Canada. Nobody gave them a chance. Nobody was writing previews about their defensive structure or their pressing triggers or their set-piece efficiency. They were the team everyone expected to go home in the group stage quietly and without fuss. Instead, Morocco beat Belgium 2-0. They held Croatia to a goalless draw. They topped their group. They beat Spain on penalties in the round of 16, eliminating one of the tournament favorites. They beat Portugal 1-0 in the quarterfinals, eliminating Cristiano Ronaldo from what will likely be his final World Cup. And they only lost in the semifinals to France, the eventual finalists, by a single goal. A 2-0 scoreline that flattered France and concealed how close Morocco came to causing the greatest upset in World Cup history. 4 games to reach the last 4 of a World Cup. No African nation had ever done it before. No Arab nation had ever done it before. Morocco did it with a defensive record that was the best in the tournament, conceding just once in open play across 6 matches. 1 goal in open play in 6 World Cup matches. That is not luck. That is a system.
That is organization. That is a coaching philosophy executed to near perfection under Walid Regragui, the manager who took over just weeks before the tournament began and somehow built one of the most cohesive defensive units the World Cup had seen in a generation. But here is what most people missed about Qatar. The Morocco that reached the World Cup semifinal in 2022 was a Morocco still finding itself. A Morocco running on adrenaline and togetherness, and the sheer will of a squad that believed when nobody else did. A Morocco that had not yet fully integrated its best players or maximized its tactical potential. A Morocco that was extraordinary, and still had more to give. That is the Morocco heading to 2026. Start with the spine of the team. Yassine Bounou, known as Bono, the goalkeeper who saved 2 penalties against Spain and was arguably the best goalkeeper at the 2022 World Cup. He is now 32 years old. He is at the peak of his powers. He plays his club football at Sevilla and has become one of the most reliable shot stoppers in European football. In a tournament decided by fine margins and critical moments, having the best goalkeeper is not a small advantage, it is potentially decisive.
Behind him, the defensive unit that conceded 1 open play goal in Qatar has largely stayed together. Romain Sass, the captain, was suspended for the semifinal against France. Many analysts believe that if Sass had played in that game, the result would have been different. He is now 33 years old, experienced, commanding, the heartbeat of everything Morocco defend with. Alongside him, Naif Aguerd at West Ham and Jawad El Yamek provide the cover and the physicality that Morocco need at this level. At right back, Achraf Hakimi. This is where it gets genuinely exciting. Hakimi is 25 years old. He plays for Paris Saint-Germain. He is one of the best attacking fullbacks in world football, combining defensive solidity with an attacking threat that is genuinely elite level. In Qatar, Hakimi was deployed in a restricted role to protect Morocco's defensive shape. He barely got forward. He barely attacked. He was asked to defend first, and the team came before his individual brilliance. And still Morocco reached the last 4. In 2026, with more tactical flexibility and 3 more years of development, Hakimi Unleashed is a different proposition entirely. In midfield, Sofiane Amrabat was the revelation of Qatar 2022. He played as a single pivot, A destroyer, a ball winner, a player who seemed to cover every blade of grass on the pitch simultaneously. His performances attracted interest from Barcelona, from Manchester United, from clubs across Europe. He eventually moved to Manchester United on loan in 2023. He is now 27 years old, the age when midfielders hit their peak. Amrabat in 2026 is a player with 3 more years of Premier League and top-level experience behind him. He is more complete, more confident, more capable of dominating the middle of a World Cup pitch than he was in Qatar. And then there is the attack. This is where Morocco's evolution has been most dramatic. In Qatar, Morocco's attacking play was pragmatic. They were hard to beat. They were efficient on the counter, but they were not a team that generated sustained attacking threat or created high volumes of chances. They won through defensive excellence and moments of quality. In 2026, that has changed. Hakim Ziyech is still in the squad, 32 years old, technically gifted, capable of producing moments of genuine magic from wide areas. But the real attacking story of Morocco 2026 is the emergence of Bilal El Khanous. He plays in the Belgian Pro League for Genk. He is just 20 years old. He made his World Cup debut in Qatar as a teenager and showed flashes of the kind of intelligence and creativity that makes technical scouts across Europe excited. By 2026, he will be 22, young enough to be fearless, experienced enough to handle the biggest stage. Alongside him, Soufiane Rahimi, the top scorer in the AFC Champions League in 2024, and Youssef Enesiri, who scored the goal that eliminated Portugal in Qatar and has continued to develop at Fenerbahce in Turkey. Morocco's attack in 2026 is faster, more varied, and more dangerous than it was 3 years ago. But there is something else, something beyond the individual players, something that makes Morocco's 2026 challenge fundamentally different from their 2022 miracle. The 2026 World Cup is being hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico. Morocco was one of the finalist bids for 2030 and has since been awarded co-hosting rights for the 2030 World Cup alongside Spain and Portugal. The Fédération Royale Marocaine de Football has invested massively in the national team infrastructure since Qatar. The facilities, the coaching staff, the youth development pathways, all have been expanded and improved with one goal in mind: making Morocco a permanent force in world football rather than a once-in-a-generation story. And in 2026, Morocco will play their group stage matches with African and Arab diaspora communities across the United States and Canada, creating an atmosphere that is closer to a home crowd than a neutral one. In Qatar, Morocco's support was extraordinary, filling stadiums with noise and color and belief that became a genuine factor in their performances. In 2026, that support travels with them to a continent where the Moroccan diaspora is one of the largest and most passionate anywhere in the world. None of the other favorites have this. France will have supporters, Brazil will have supporters, England will have the usual hopeful, increasingly traumatized traveling thousands, but Morocco will have entire cities in the United States and Canada that feel like home. So why is nobody talking about them? Partly because the football media cycle moves fast and Morocco's Qatar story has been replaced by newer narratives. Partly because African teams historically underperform at tournaments relative to expectation, and the assumption is that Qatar was the anomaly, not the baseline. Partly because when you say Morocco in a list of World Cup contenders, the name
does not carry the same immediate weight as Brazil or France or Germany. But that assumption, that Morocco's Qatar run was a miracle that cannot be repeated, fundamentally misunderstands what happened in 2022 and what has happened since. Qatar was not a miracle. Qatar was a system working. Qatar was a coaching philosophy delivering. Qatar was a group of players, many of them born in France, Spain, Belgium, and the Netherlands, choosing Morocco over the countries where they were raised, playing with a collective pride and identity that is genuinely rare at international level. That system hasn't gone away. The coaching philosophy hasn't been dismantled. Those players have not retired. They are 3 years older, 3 years more experienced, 3 years better. Morocco in 2026 is not a surprise story waiting to happen. Morocco in 2026 is a genuine contender that the football world has decided to overlook because it is more comfortable to talk about the same teams it always talks about. And when the tournament begins, when Morocco's defensive block is holding firm against a supposedly superior opponent, when Hakimi is driving forward from right back with a kind of speed and purpose that fullbacks can only dream of stopping, when Amrabat is breaking up attack after attack in the middle of the pitch, when Bunu is pulling off the saves that change the course of matches, the football world will remember. They were warned. They just were not paying attention. Morocco in 2026. Write it down.